So to quote Peep Show, if you can't sum up your aims in your first line, they're too diffuse. So we need clear goals because with any project, they give us something to refer back to and make sure that everything that we do is relevant to the work. If we have clear goals from the start that we all agree upon, so we can ensure that the work that is delivered is relevant and usable, which in turn will make the project more economical because there's less opportunity for waste. It makes both the photographer and the client accountable because we both have a single point to be focused on that we agreed upon together. And it enables us at the end of the project to measure the success of the project against the goal. And that way we can learn from any mistakes that we might have made in the future. And then finally, it just gives us that seed that we can then plan all of the rest of the project around. So let's talk about purpose. And when I mean purpose, I'm talking about the business case. So every business investment that we make needs to be able to justify its cost. If we can't define a business purpose for the photo shoot, then we should be asking ourselves, do we actually really need to do this? So some smaller businesses have a tendency to want to invest in creative projects because they're quite fun, they're quite sexy, but the business case isn't actually there to do them. So spending the money on photography, though might seem like a good idea, isn't necessarily the most profitable. In this instance, it often leads to just an unhappy photographer and a difficult client to work with. There's a number of things that each goal needs to have for it to work. First thing is to be specific. So we want to actually outline what it is specifically that we intend to achieve. So rather than just saying increase sales, we want to say increase sales by how much? Say 15%. And we want to say of what? So what is the particular product, for example, in this instance that we're looking at? And the next thing, we should outline the theme. So ideally, that's going to take reference from the brand. So if we're a fun brand, we need to have fun imagery, and we should outline that and aim at the start so that we always have that point of reference to come back to. You should outline who the audience is going to be. So is it for customers, or potentially it could be for shareholders or any other stakeholder in the business, depending on what the actual point of the campaign is. We'd ideally like to add a deadline in there. It doesn't have to be a date, but just within 4 months or something rough so that we have a time frame that we can start to work to. And finally, measurable. And that means we can make an evaluation of how well or not well the campaign went at the end of it. So I'm going to give you an example now. We're aiming to create a batch of imagery to document the upcoming annual meeting. The imagery will be used for internal communications to motivate staff. The imagery should demonstrate the joy and camaraderie of the occasion. This project needs to be delivered on the 3rd of April. This is a rather specific goal. It's included who it's intended to be aimed at, what the actual purpose is of the aim, and when we need to deliver that. It is normal for a project to have a number of different aims, but obviously that has to exist within reason. If you've got 2-3 aims, maybe that's probably the max. If you're looking at 4, 5, 6, you probably need to think about splitting this project up into multiple different projects. Actually looking at a campaign, and we're looking to get some product photography done to announce the new chocolate bar that it is that we're selling. And then alongside that, we're also doing some headshots of our internal staff. This is not the same project, and we should set separate aims and separate projects to reflect that. If we're pulling too many things together and we try and fit them all into the aim at the start, it should become pretty obvious that these aims are, as I said at the start, too diffuse. We're going to do an exercise together, and we're going to start putting together a photography brief. I've included a photography brief template in the resources section of this. So I'd suggest that you try and write an aim for a hypothetical project, and it's important that you write this down because we're going to use it for the rest of this module. So my company is launching a new chocolate bar, and in writing the goal, it needs to be specific, measurable, have a business purpose, outline the audience, and give a sense of what the theme is. Okay, so keep that goal at the top of the brief.